Are coffee and caffeine good or bad for you? Short answer, they're pretty terrible for your body, your mind and your long-term health. Sugar की तो बैंड बजा दी, अब coffee तो छोड़ देना बैंचो. Now yes, they do help a little bit with weight loss, but if you're talking about fitness from a long-term perspective, they're not the best things to put inside your body. You want to know more? Let's science the shit out of it. What's good everybody, but specifically what's good to all the coffee drinkers. If you're someone who drinks coffee regularly, 1 or 2 cups every day, I highly recommend you watch today's video. Coffee is very high in caffeine. It's got 100 milligrams of caffeine per cup of coffee. And caffeine is classified as a psychoactive drug. That means it's an external substance that if you ingest, it has an effect on the normal functioning of your brain. Just like marijuana or heroin or cocaine. And while we're talking about drugs, let's talk about the video I made on marijuana and bhang. In that video, I spoke about something called the dependence versus damage scale. The dependence versus damage scale is all about the effect of a psychoactive substance on the human body. So the y-axis represents dependence. How addictive a substance is, how dependent your body gets on that particular substance. And the x-axis represents damage, how much damage a substance can do to your own body. So as you go towards the lower left-hand corner, that's where the safer substances are. And as you move towards the top right, the worse the substances get. On the top right, you have heroin and cocaine. On the bottom left, near the bottom left, you've got weed or marijuana. Now the interesting thing to note about caffeine or coffee is that in terms of dependence, it's at the same height as weed or marijuana. So it's as addictive as weed. That means your body gets as dependent on coffee as it does on weed. But very interestingly, coffee is a little bit towards the right. That means it causes more damage to your body than marijuana does. Hut! Weed isn't addictive, okay? So coffee is also not addictive, na? Now yes, caffeine isn't all that bad from an addiction or dependence perspective. But here's why coffee is a harmful substance. Unlike weed, which isn't freely available, coffee and caffeine is available all around us. You'll never find an Auntie G smoking a joint, but you will find her sipping 2 or 3 cups of coffee every single day. And because we live in a society where we've been brought up being told that, yeah, coffee is okay and sugar is okay, we believe that these substances are okay when modern day science, modern day fitness science tells us otherwise. Now, Beer Biceps will never diss or recommend a substance without backing it up with science. So what does science say about coffee? Well, firstly, in this scientific movie, the hero is a substance called adenosine. You know, when you're driving your car, the car lets out smoke through the exhaust pipe. The same way, suppose the car is your body. If you perform your daily tasks, if you study, or if you go to the gym, or if you walk around, you exercise, you do your daily activities, the byproduct is this chemical called adenosine. Now, this adenosine goes to your brain and combines with what we call adenosine receptors in your brain. So this is the receptor, this is the molecule of adenosine. When they combine, it leads to some kind of effects. Now, what are these effects? The more the adenosine in your body, the more it will combine with the adenosine receptors in your brain, and the more you'll get fatigued, the more you'll get sleepy. That's why as you progress through the day, you start getting tired. It's because of those adenosine receptors combining with those molecules in your brain and signaling to your body, hey, take a break, I need a break, I'm tired right now. That's basically what it is. Now, how does caffeine and coffee come into this picture? So coffee is full of caffeine molecules, and the thing about caffeine molecules is that their chemical structure is similar to that of adenosine. They fit really well into those adenosine receptors. And once they fit into those adenosine receptors, they don't allow for those effects to take place that would have taken place otherwise. So that means under normal circumstances, adenosine molecule, adenosine receptor, it combines and it signals to your body, I'm tired. But if you consume coffee and those caffeine molecules, they'll combine with the receptors and prevent all these other adenosine molecules from combining with those receptors. So your body doesn't get a signal that it's tired. You're essentially fooling your body into thinking that I'm not tired, I'm not getting any signal from my brain, so I'm probably okay. That's why every time you drink coffee, you get a kick. Your body thinks, wait, I was tired and now I'm not feeling that tired. I'm actually feeling a little bit good. That's the primary reason why caffeine wakes you up. Now that's what happens every time you consume caffeine. But what if you're someone who develops a habit of drinking a cup of coffee every day? Now again, this is a new situation for your brain. Your brain doesn't understand why all those adenosine molecules aren't combining with the receptors. So it compensates by producing more receptors. And this is a big issue in the long term, because if there are more receptors, then every time you don't get caffeine to fill up all those receptors, all that excess adenosine in your body is going to combine with those receptors, and that effect of fatigue that's created is going to be much more amplified. It's going to be much more increased. So you end up feeling way more fatigued than you were feeling before you started consuming coffee. And also the other effect is that obviously because there are more receptors, you need even more caffeine to have that same kick, to create that same effect. That's how people who start with 1 cup of coffee a day elevate to 2 or 3 cups. It's basically an addiction just like cigarettes. But if we're talking about caffeine, we have to talk about the hormonal changes it creates. Firstly, adrenaline, the fight or flight hormone. So if a dog comes running at you, that's when your body is going to spike its adrenaline. You'll be able to run faster, your coordination will be better, your mind will be sharper. Caffeine spikes your adrenaline, which creates all these effects, but in an artificial way. That's why a lot of pre-workouts will have a lot of caffeine, because it helps with your workouts. Now this is an issue for many gymmers because everyone ends up creating this hormonal dependence on caffeine. They can only push as hard in the gym if they've consumed that black coffee or that pre-workout. You're basically making your physical capabilities dependent on an external substance. The other major hormonal change that caffeine creates is that it messes around with the dopamine levels in your brain. Now, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's linked to your happiness levels. So if you do an activity that you enjoy, whether that's watching TV or going out to eat, that's what spikes your dopamine levels. And caffeine has a huge effect on the dopamine levels inside your brain. It's basically taking charge of how happy you feel. Every time you consume a cup of coffee, it's making you feel much happier. Ooh. And essentially what you're doing by consuming caffeine every single day is that you're submitting your own happiness to an external substance. And that's why I feel that this is a big issue. But in saying all of this, what you need to remember is that caffeine isn't only bad. Of course, it's got some good effects as well, especially from a weight loss perspective. Caffeine assists in fat mobilization. Fat mobilization, in layman's terms, is basically the process by which your stored body fat is broken down into fat that can be mobilized, that can be moved around your body and used for energy. That's why caffeine is a kind of fat burner in a way. But as I've always said, the greatest fat burner, the greatest supplement of them all is your sleep. I've made a very detailed video on the effect of sleep on your fat loss. So if you want to know the science about that, go check it out. My point is that in the long term, once again, caffeine does affect your sleep cycle. And by affecting your sleep cycle, you're not putting your body into an optimum state to burn off fat. So while it is giving you those fat burning effects, in the long term, it's actually taking away a little bit from your fat burning effects by affecting your sleep. Why? Because caffeine's half-life is 6 hours. So you're consuming 100 mg of caffeine in that 1 cup of coffee. So suppose you consume it at 9 a.m. Then by 3 p.m. you have about 50 mg of caffeine left inside your bloodstream. It takes 6 hours for half of that amount of caffeine to be used up by your body. Now, here's why this is an issue. A lot of people consume caffeine in the evening or even in the late evening. So if you're consuming it at like 7 p.m., if you're having a cup of coffee at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, that caffeine is still going to be active in your bloodstream at 2 a.m. when you're trying to fall asleep. And that's how it affects your sleep cycle. You're basically affecting the overall quality of your sleep. Remember, when we're talking about sleep, the quality of your sleep is way more important than how long you sleep for. And that's why caffeine and coffee can play a huge role in affecting your long-term health. Everyone watching this video, you guys need to understand that in today's video, I just spoke about the scientific effect that coffee and caffeine has on your body. And these are all internal effects, how it affects your hormonal system. But those hormonal changes have a role to play in all these external changes that caffeine causes in your daily life. It might lead to anxiety, it might lead to depression because of that lack of good quality sleep. I will talk about that in my next video. But in today's video, let's just talk about the solution. If caffeine is so bad, what do you do? Now, on Beer Biceps, the one idea I promote is that your life shouldn't be only about fitness and health, and you should always have a little bit of fun once in a while. Now, how do you create that bit of fun but stay healthy at the same time? the key is always moderation. I'm not asking you guys to cut off caffeine entirely, but you can definitely do something slightly healthier. If you're someone who consumes a cup of coffee every single day, firstly, that's too much. That's what you need to understand. So try reducing that amount of caffeine consumption a little bit. Limit yourself to once in 3 days or once a week if you can. But an even healthier option would be, instead of going for coffee, which has 100 milligrams of caffeine in that one cup, go for something like tea, Indian chai, a regular Indian chai, which has about 25 milligrams of caffeine in one cup. It's a lot healthier, and if you can work your way down from that high level of caffeine consumption to this low level of caffeine consumption, then in the long term, that's a much healthier prospect. And that's what you need to understand. Remember, your life shouldn't be about restrictions, it should only be about moderation. Hey guys, so that was the video for today. Now keep in mind that for all of y'all, it's just one like and one thumbs up, but for every single YouTuber, each of those likes plays a role in building our channel. So if this content helped you, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Now keep in mind that in today's video, I only spoke about the scientific effects of coffee, but this coming Sunday, I will be releasing a video about all the external changes that coffee and caffeine consumption can cause inside your life. Remember, caffeine is a modern day psychoactive drug that's easily available, and without you knowing it, it is affecting the quality of your life. Either way guys, I hope you guys liked today's video, and if you want to learn more about diet science like this, make sure you check out the diet advice playlist on Beer Biceps. And if you're new to the channel, hit that yellow circle and subscribe and join the BB army. Until next time guys, from Ranveer, see you.